Chair, we have all the people that we're apparently going to have this evening.
All right.
We only have one appeal. So the floor is yours, but before you start, I do want to point out that you should combine the call of order and the roll call together. Roll call actually should have been an agenda item, but we can amend the agenda so that you
Okay.
have your vote.
All right. Then let's, it's 7:31 on Monday, May 12th. We're here, all think, for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. So per the amended agenda, I'll call the meeting to order and let's go around and we'll do roll call.
You're going to need to amend the agenda first. That's going to take a motion to amend the
All right.
agenda to include roll call.
Very good. Can I have a motion for an amended
Motion to amend the
agenda?
agenda.
Second? Okay, all in favor of the amended agenda? Very good.
Aye.
Now, proceeding with the amended agenda, having called the meeting to order, let's do roll call. How do you want us to just identify
Yeah, you
ourselves?
just
All
start
right,
at one end.
go ahead.
Vincent Verna.
Michael Brooks.
Ben Falick, Chair.
Chris Gombieski.
Sheldon Cone.
Joe Clay.
All right, so we have a quorum. Can I get a motion or any notes on the March 10th meeting minutes? Since we have an approval for the amended agenda, yes. Number 3, any motion or notes on the meeting minutes from March 10th?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right, we have an approved set of minutes from our last meeting, and which brings us to the evening's one appeal.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
We only called out on March 10th. We also.
Oh, excuse me, you're right. I'll entertain a separate motion or something in lieu of a motion for the March 19th minutes as well.
Make a motion to approve the March 19th minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed. We have approved minutes for March 10th and March 19th. And now we have number 4 on this evening's agenda, the appeal for 13352 Ludlow. So welcome, thanks for
Thank you.
coming. You can introduce yourselves and give us, just in your own words, description of what you're here for, and we usually let Hank take us through the finer points, and we'll open it up.
Sure. We're Johanna and Chris Maragno. And we are hoping to replace our driveway exactly as it is right now. That's the gist of it. But the code has changed since the driveway was originally put in. And so I think do you all have the packet we provided? Yes, I think it provides a really clear explanation of what the new issue would be and the reasoning behind our goal to replace the driveway as it proceeds.
All right. Thank you. And we don't have to hit the 4 criteria, but they do exist, and there's a little pamphlet somewhere if you want to riff on it, or we can come back to it.
I think, Mr. Chair, if I might
Sure.
be able to shed some light on this. So originally, this house was built, I'm going to go with this house is probably 20 years old, something like
Yeah, I
that.
think 2006.
So what happened was that at that point in time, they had a 16-foot driveway width. And it was put in, and the city approved the plans back then, and they were allowed to put into that. So they had the 16-foot driveway. This is their first driveway that they're replacing at this point in time. So what happened is, it's not so much that the code has changed since then, as that it should have been caught back then in some way, shape, or form. But having said that, there's also another difficulty in that the city matched the approach, which was put in, to the 16 feet, which matches the bottom of the driveway. So the top of the approach matches the bottom of the driveway, and that's already set up at 16 feet. The other thing that kind of complicates the issue here, which goes towards the criteria, is that if you take a look at the way that it is, you'll notice it's a side entry garage. So having a little bit of a swing area or a swing place where you can, pivot around to get into the garage makes sense. And you start that typically before where the garage starts, where it could go to 16 feet. So the problem with that, or where the house goes, so it could go to the 60 feet. So the problem that you have with that is that you'd have like this real little approach in the front. They'd have to replace the approach to match the driveway portion, which is counter to what they were given originally when they built the house. So it didn't make sense. So just to go over the criteria, special or unique circumstances and conditions exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, which are not generally applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. Typically in that district, which is an R1B zoning, a lot of places don't have the side entryway garage. So that's one of the criteria that they have, that they're a little bit different. The code does specify 12, but this again was built in 2006 and was approved with the existing driveway width. The house is a side-facing garage, and the additional width also helps them maneuver into position to enter the garage. Plus, it was existing for the last 20 years, and it was given to them on a building permit. At that point in time, I can have no record of there being a ZBA variance at this time, so variance, should it be the pleasure of the ZBA to grant it, would be legitimizing what's already been done. 2, the variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the general welfare. I've had no adverse communications at this time, and I've also had no adverse communications over the last 20 years. So that would be one of the things that we might want to take into consideration. 3, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. The applicant house was designed and approved and built at the 16 feet, and the city gave him permission at that time. So that's one of the things that he submitted it, it was approved. He went through his channels, and here we are. So this sometimes happens. 4, a literal interpretation of the provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance if the variance is the minimum necessary. Most residences will have a front-facing garages, and the side-facing has some different issues. As to depriving him of these rights, those rights would be those that was already afforded to him when he was granted the building permit. So having said that, I've included what your motions could be. If you have any questions, I'm sure that either they or myself are happy to answer it, and any clarifications that you need. I did show this up on the screen, and you can see how the driveway matches the bottom. You can also see where it is. The garage is to the side at the back, so you can see the pivot area. And the front of the house is up here that matches the other house to this side. So that's where, that's kind of how that does. So you're going to really only have, you would only have the 12 feet for 25 feet. And you'd have to redo all that for that. So unless they have anything else to add, Mr. Chair, I would yield the floor.
Thank you. I think this may be time to open it to public participation. We'll take public participation. Hearing none. Close the floor to public participation and open it up to questions or comments from the board. Yes.
Hank, I don't understand why this is here. To replace the driveway requires a variance?
Because it's at 60, they want to replace it with a 16-foot. Technically, it's a non-conforming driveway because it can only be 12 in the front. So the fact is that it's going to be replaced at 16, and like with non-conformities, the thing about non-conforming structures or non-conformities is that eventually they're expected to go away. So without a reason to keep it, then the 12-foot would be here. So unfortunately, I had no choice. If this was an administrative approval, it might be different.
Are these applicants the original owners of the home, or was this something you bought into?
We bought it from the builder in '07.
But we didn't have it built.
Got it.
And the builder was residing there, or you bought it new?
We're not sure what he was
Does
doing.
he live in there? I guess not.
He had some stuff in it, but I don't think he was living
The
there.
original owner on the neighbor.
He's our neighbor.
You might wanna-
Yeah, just if you want to give us your name and street number so we have it for the minutes.
Hardy Siegel.
They're not gonna hear you unless you.
Oh,
come up
sorry.
with the mic.
Yeah.
Hardy Siegel, 13344, Ludlow.
Okay, you wanted to give us a little context? It's good to know.
No, essentially there was a woman who built a house that was there. She built it in 1946, I believe. She became ill and she subsequently was taken away and passed away, and a builder came in, bought the property. It was three lots, I believe, and he built those two homes on those lots. And then they sat for sale for almost a year, and then these two bought.
Okay, so you're essentially the original resident there. Okay, got it. If we were to deny this, Hank, or if we were to reduce it so that it was only available, the 16 feet was only available directly in front of the garage, what would they have to do with the approach? Would they have to do something with the approach, or
You could.
just make it look ugly?
Because once they're past the front point of the house, the 12 feet is only for the front, from the front of the house to the property line. So they would actually have to make it 12 feet from there to there, which is approximately 25 feet. They wouldn't have to do that, but the next time the approach came out, which I don't know if you were intending on doing the approach as well, they would have to match the top of the approach to the bottom of that, and that would reduce that with the flares. And then the other complicating thing is that you'd also have to change your curb cut. So
Okay.
That complicates matters a bit.
So let me understand, it's really from the front of the house to the approach we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Hank, do you know how many houses in this area have side entry garages in this particular?
I don't know the many. I know that Mr. Siegel has a front entry garage. I know that there's a few, most of them have separate rear yard garages or front. There's a house across the street that has a front-facing attached garage with a breezeway. But most of them are single houses that have detached garages in the rear yard on that street.
Yeah, I will tell you that I have a side entry garage and a 12-foot drive that needs work. And the only way I can get into it, happens to be a car and a half. The only way I can get into it is to back in. The car will move that way and actually get in the garage. Getting in the front way just doesn't work. So I'm telling you, the 12 feet is workable. It's certainly not convenient. Okay. The only issue I have with this particular request is the granting the variance to the minimum extent necessary. And that's why I was addressing the question of whether or not the 16-foot could be accommodated, and what, if it was just behind the front of the house, you know, from the part of the driveway that's behind the front line of the house, and what else they might have to do.
Yeah, that would be the only other thing. Technically, at some point in time, the city gave permission. I can't find any records of a ZBA variance to make it 16 in the first place.
Has there been a change in the ordinance?
No.
So it's been 12 foot all along?
It's been 12 foot. 16 was built, 16 was inspected, 16 was approved, plan 16 was signed off on. So it's one of those things where they might have had a case for the 16 even if it wasn't signed off on, just based on the side entry garage and the maneuvering of it. They have the room on the site. There's no other variances needed. They don't need any side yard variances or anything like that. So having said that, that's, you know.
Is there room in the drive, is a 16-foot drive to park two cars side by side?
barely. Normal parking spaces are 9 by 20. And this actually is 2 8 by 20 spaces, if you take a look at that. So if you park your cars right next to each other, you're not opening the door, unfortunately.
That's correct.
That's correct.
It's tight.
Okay.
So every little bit that they can get on this would be helpful to them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I think they should be advised that even though we're short a member, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they still have to get, what, 4 votes?
That is correct.
Right,
You need
so-
4 affirmative votes.
So if, I take that into account in terms of going forward.
That is, yeah, it's for even, if there were 4 of us or 7 of us, you'd still need 4 votes.
You have 6, so you'll need
Four
4
of it.
affirmative votes out of the 6.
Other questions for the applicants or Hank?
I have a question for Hank.
Yes, sir.
So if we don't give them the variance, they're gonna have to tear out the approach and revise it?
Well, they're not gonna have to, were you doing the approach at this time, or just the driveway portion of it?
Well, we don't know.
It depends on what happens.
Okay. So, the reality with that is that my guess would be is they don't have to tear out the approach.
Okay,
We're not gonna make them tear out the approach. What can happen is that you're allowed by code to have a 3-foot driveway, a walkway next to the driveway, parallel to it, attached to it. It just has to be somewhat differentiated by line or color or pattern
Can
or
you-
something of that nature.
Can you stamp that?
Yeah. Should they want to.
Right.
Whether or not they use it for parking, I would know that's 15. So by the time you get to that point, you've got 15. And the reality is that they're looking to just legitimize it and get to 16.
Got it. Well, I'll ask my ship of Theseus, I think, question of, if they were just, it's the full replacement of it that triggers the need, or if they were just,
They're just replacing what they had.
well, that's what they are looking to do is
Yes.
replace it as it is,
That's
but the full replacement of it is what triggers the need for the variance,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, if they were going before this, if they were replacing like one little flag or something like that, I would call that a repair.
Okay.
But that's not what they're doing. They've been completely above board with this. They've come in, they've provided materials, so having said that, that's where we're at.
Got it. And it looks like it's the house to the west is the same developer, same.
Yeah, that's correct.
It looks like that is also a wider driveway?
Yes, but with
Yeah.
the front approach.
They're both,
Right.
they're both the same.
Okay, that's, just looking for, kind of the visual cues.
There's-
Was that?
And that's the context for the.
Got it. All right. Other questions?
So I just want to walk through this because, so builder gets approved, builds a house on an old house, renovates and expands an old house. They buy it in '07. These plans are approved with a 16-foot driveway. Now they've pulled a permit for a whole new driveway, and because of that, it has become apparent in the process that this is a non-conforming driveway because there's no record.
There's no record other than the
Okay.
building inspector's signature on the plans.
But the building inspector did sign off.
Building
On the
inspector
plan.
did sign off on it, so at that point in time, the builder before them had a reasonable expectation that was okay. They had a signed set of plans.
And if they pinch it down to conforming before the front of the house, then they're left with this apron that is
It's not gonna
Right.
match.
large, yeah.
Or like an hourglass, right, where it would come in
30%
and then it could go
wider.
back out at the,
Well, that would be up to them, but I mean, there's no, they couldn't go back out, that's the thing.
Right.
You can't be 16 above the sidewalk unless you legitimize it and give them their 16.
And to replace an apron, you gotta extend the curb, and there's,
Well, no, the curb is there, but if you were gonna replace the apron, the curb, or you were gonna replace the approach, the apron of the driveway, then when you make that down to 12, then the flares are too wide. So now all of a sudden you gotta take and deal with the curb issue.
Yeah.
So, or you'd have like that. So it wouldn't look right with this. So, and again, that's where we're at.
Other questions, comments, concerns? Well, in that case, we can entertain a motion and then continue to discuss it once we have a motion on the table.
Should there be any more discussion, that would be the correct procedure.
All right, well, I move to grant the appeal at 13352 Ludlow for the variance from section 40-10.06, parking and circulation for a driveway width of 16 feet instead of the required 12.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of granting the motion as presented?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations. That is all for agenda item number 4. Before we conclude, we'll open the floor back up for general public participation. Hearing none. I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.